Hi everybody, Brian here. Today I'm going to address a very common frustration for parents of spectrum children. That issue is sharing. Their child won't share, gets angry when asked to share their things, and yet has no problem whatsoever asking for other people's things, and frankly expects it. This thinking defies all logic and is extremely frustrating for parents who can't seem to figure out how to resolve this disconnect. Well, as an adult on the autism spectrum myself, and the father of 3 spectrum sons, I lived this problem as well. Or should I say, I lived it, until I found a solution, which I'll explain in a minute. First, let me explain what I have experienced to be at the root of this issue, and then how I resolved it in my family, as well as how I teach my clients to apply it. Now, many think spectrumites don't like to share because they're selfish and want to control everything. Those may be aspects of it, but there's an even greater issue underneath it all. Something significant that is missing in the child's relationship with others that needs to be in place before sharing can happen. That missing piece is trust. Trust that if I share my things, will I be able to get them back the same way I lent them out? More likely, it's whether I'll be able to get them back without conflict, without someone saying, no, I'm not done with it, or why did you ask for it back so soon, or any other resistance whatsoever. But there may be no reason to think the other person will break the things you lent, or that they won't give them back, but there's that great unknown that spectrumites really have a difficult time with. And sometimes that unknown can cause enough anxiety that the idea of sharing at all seems dangerous, so they just don't even want to contemplate it. The problematic flip side to this, of course, is the child who still wants to be shared with. They want to be given to readily, without any kind of resistance, and more so if they don't even ask, they just go and take. Because, of course, if you just go and take, there's no conflict either, no resistance, no one to ask. So what's the solution to this? Well, as you know, each child is different, but here's a solution that works well in my family and, fortunately, consistently works well for my clients as well. First, establish a rule of reciprocity in the house. Reciprocity means give and take. But don't just say, the rule in this house is that we share. Demonstrate and explain how you live it already. Parents share their house, their food, and their car with their children so their children can get what they need. Children come to expect these things as a given because parents just provide them freely. They don't ask for anything in return. But it is critical that parents establish with their children that they must reciprocate their parents' generosity by giving of their respect and their time. Time includes helping around the house in exchange for the things their parents give them. Help that is given by choice and not because the child is entitled to it. I've had clients say to their parents, well, it's your job. You're supposed to do this. And parents get that, children rather, get that idea because their parents have always given it that way. So the child expects that it will always be given. So it's necessary to renegotiate that. Sorry that I've sent you that message, but I give it because I choose to, not because I have to. And now it is time to have my choice respected by your choosing to give me something in return. The trust issue can be resolved this way. Guide your child in negotiating how and when what is being shared will be returned. For example, when one of my sons wants to borrow a video game from the other, they negotiate how long it will be lent for and when it will be returned. Now, of course, I coached them to this point. It used to be they would just take it from each other or there'd be a shouting match over it. But when I helped them understand how that caused them more problems when they ultimately wanted some reassurance that that transaction was going to go well. So once I helped them understand that and figure out the language to allow this sharing to take place so that there were more knowns than unknowns, and they realized that it could go well, they were okay with the deal. And also, in making sure, as the parents, that their agreement with each other is consistently honored, you help them build trust, and the sharing becomes a less threatening proposition. So it's not enough that you teach them the language, to go through, because it's not about rote or going through the motions. It's about honoring that agreement. So if they say, this is the time I'm going to have it, this is when I'm going to return it, if any one of them decides to single-handedly change the rules, that's when you step in and say, hey, you made an agreement, and the agreement is king here. You honor the agreement so you two can trust each other. And when they internalize that and trust becomes the value, they'll want to honor that because they both want it so much. Okay? Well, that's a little bit for today. I hope this helps you get started on making sharing a standard part of the relationships in your household, because really trust is at the root of any good, solid relationship. Now, keep in mind that I've only scratched the surface here, but hopefully I've helped point you in a useful direction. Now, feel free to leave your questions and comments below, because after all, if you don't ask, you don't get. This newsletter is all about answering your questions, so please go ahead and ask freely. So, to the mother in Indiana responsible for this week's question, thank you for asking. And to all of you out there, thanks for being you. We'll talk to you next week.